Hey you all, Carpetbagger here, coming to you live from the West. More specifically, today we are in Glendale, California. We're here at the Forest Lawn Cemetery. Now, there is a chain of cemeteries here in Southern California called the Forest Lawn Cemeteries. This one here in Glendale is the oldest, the original Forest Lawn Cemetery. This opened in 1906. I come out here today to check out the museum at the cemetery, the Forest Lawn Cemetery Museum. So please, follow me. They have a special exhibit right now, the Baker Marionette Theater, 60 Years of Joy and Wonder. Now, Bob Baker created puppets that were used in various movies and television shows, and they also do currently have a marionette theater that still does shows here in the Los Angeles area. Now, as we enter the museum here, this is their permanent gallery. They have a lot of really cool sculptures. This is Sirio Taffanari. I really like these baboon sculptures, really stylized baboons. And we have an authentic head from Easter Island. Apparently this is not one of the ancient heads. It's actually, I think they estimate around 100 years old. But it was carved on Easter Island. See some of the pictures there of those famous Easter Island heads there. And then of course a lot of people don't realize the heads actually have bodies, and the ones that you see the heads poking up actually have their bodies buried underground. But yeah, it's pretty amazing to see that sculpture in person. And here is the famous David statue that they have here at the Forest Lawn Cemetery. Actually shows here that in their billboards, they would actually use the David statue as almost a tourist attraction for people to see. And apparently this is the third David statue here, because apparently all three of the previous statues had fallen to earthquakes. You can see where the earthquake had broken off the feet, broken off the head, and they have reinstalled a David in the cemetery, but that one apparently is made out of brass, because these marble ones keep being broken by California's earthquakes. This is a bust of Teddy Roosevelt by James Earl Fraser. This was originally intended to go in the Senate building in Washington, D.C., but they actually rejected it because they didn't like that it was the Rough Rider version of Teddy Roosevelt. They wanted the more, I guess, more presidential suited Teddy Roosevelt. So this got rejected, and the sculptor had to create a new one that was, I guess, more formal and conservative. And this apparently is the crown jewel of their collection. This is the Song of the Angels. It's painting here from 1881, and there's pieces of the original church here. Apparently this was taken out of a church here on property. This statue here is actually a Gutzon Borglum. He is the sculptor that designed Mount Rushmore. Here we move on to the temporary exhibit, the 60 Years of Joy and Wonder, the Bob Baker Marionette Theater. Now, Bob Baker, a local puppet maker and puppeteer, he did some work in television, in movies, but is very well known locally for his marionette theater that actually still does puppet shows to this day. He himself passed away, but they do carry on his legacy. So we can see some of the puppets here. This puppet here, which is very sizable, very large marionette. This one is known as the Wizard of Fantasy. can see these puppets here, actually living drums. Talks about the history of Bob Baker here. Actually began performing puppet shows when he was still a very young child and actually went professional when he was a teenager. Here are some of his early puppets here. Began to sell his puppets commercially. Apparently this is one of the popular puppets that were sold. This is Bobo the Clown there. This is 1949, would begin producing his own television show, The Adventures of Bobo, with the intention of selling more puppets. Here's a puppet created for a pet milk commercial, and I love this puppet. But one thing that's interesting about this is this was, of course, these commercials were filmed in black and white. So you see kind of the interesting coloration there. It's kind of meant to, even though it's a color puppet, it's meant to show up in a certain way in the black and white footage. That's why it's painted that interesting shade of blue there. Actually worked with Elvis Presley here on the movie G.I. Blues. See some of the Bob Baker puppets there. Worked on the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind, creating the alien puppets that appear at the very end of the movie. There's the sketches there to create the puppets, the concept art of the aliens coming out of the spaceship. And there is Bob Baker puppeteering that alien from Close Encounters. I find this marionette really fascinating here. This is known as the manipulator. So you see the clown puppet is actually controlling its own marionette, and that marionette has their own marionette as well. So this is actually operated by one person. We'll be able to control the 3 marionettes at the same time. You can see these puppets here doing a trapeze act. Just fascinating, you know, how this would work. All the different strings, controlling the trapeze, controlling the puppets. You can see how intricately they work there. All the little cords and wires everywhere, getting everything to move perfectly. Now this here is actually an animatronic band from the 1960s, and apparently it does still work. They told me that they don't currently operate it because it is so fragile. You know, all the parts work, but you know, it puts a lot of wear and tear on the machine for it to be run. But yeah, very cool. Just imagine all these little guys moving, playing their instruments there. And this ostrich here may be the craziest puppet here, the way this works. So you have the ostrich would come out and be performing, and then it would release an egg. Then the egg would hatch. So again, this is a puppet, comes out dancing, a string is pulled to release an egg that rolls out, the egg hatches, and then a baby ostrich puppet comes out of the egg, and then that moves around as well. So during a show, a marionette is able to lay an egg, the egg hatches, and then another working marionette comes out of there, all operated by one person. These sketches here showing how the different puppets work. You can see the sky dancer up there hanging from her mouth. Have the mama seal puppet, little dancing seal there. This is the Something to Crow About show. Said he would perform this at the Laguna Beach Arts Festival. And on the wall here is the concept art for these different vegetable characters. See the broccoli there, like a piece of celery, I think. Then I like this little potato guy there. These are so cool. Some of the vegetable puppets there. See the broccoli lady with her little opera glasses. It's a very happy carrot boy there. Yeah, these are really remarkable in their design. Some more puppets used in the Something to Crow About show. There's the actual crow there. His little vaudeville outfit. See, it's like a flamingo there, little friend. And we have the barn scenes here. Apparently all this would be operational. The windmill would turn, and all these little doors would open up, places for puppets to pop out. That are strings hooked up there to the weather vane, so that can be operated and moved as part of the show. You can see the little flower dancers there. This is all on one stick, so that would be one puppeteer moving all three of the dancing flowers in sync. You can see over here on the other part of the set there are places for puppets to pop out of. There's a puppet used in a show about Hispanic culture. It says that the puppet would come out originally, it would just be a normal cactus. And then its eyes would pop open, the eyelids would pop up, revealing the eyes, and then the flowers would sprout from the cactus. Here we have Little Nas X, who actually had one of his single release parties at the Marionette Theater, and at the party had a puppet of Little Nas X there to join the larger Little Nas X on stage. So yeah, the Little Nas X puppet. There's a little model of the Bob Baker Marionette Theater. This would have been a more adult style show. We have Cleopatra there in puppet form, and then this black cat here. And then this sea monster here, see hanging from the roof. Really amazing piece of work. This was actually the show that this was built for, never actually happened, but still a wonderful marionette there. And next to the museum we have this, the Hall of Crucifixion Resurrection. This giant building here, believe it or not, built to house a single painting. All right, let's head inside here to see what painting calls for such an enormous building. And just look at this building here. Look how tall the ceilings are. Wow. You can see this giant door that opens to the outside. It's flanked by these suits of armor. So this building was originally designed to be a mausoleum, but ended up being the home of a single work of art. As we enter this room, look at this. Look at that painting right there. So this giant painting here is known as the Crucifixion. It's a panoramic painting of Jesus being crucified. You can see Jesus right there in the middle. This actually has a very interesting story behind it. This was originally meant to be exhibited at the 1904 St. Louis World's Fair. Of course, I've talked a lot about the World's Fair recently, and all the giant icons left over from the World's Fair. Well, this is a giant icon left over from the fair. Unfortunately, it's not in St. Louis, and actually it was never even displayed in St. Louis. The artist brought it to America from Poland, and it was found that the building originally intended to display it was too small and it could not be displayed, so they had to just put it in storage during the World's Fair. The artist's other paintings were all destroyed in a fire, and when he attempted to take this painting, the Crucifixion, back to Poland, it got caught up in customs and he was not allowed to bring it back to Poland with him, and he never saw it again. It was later found in the basement of an opera house in Chicago for some reason. Now the cemetery here decided they wanted to display it and use this massive building as a way to exhibit it. There's actually a show that goes along with the giant painting here. You know, there's some narration, some lights, but the current show is actually being redone right now, so they're in between shows. So they should be having a new show relatively soon. And just to give some perspective here, he's gonna walk up on the stage so we can just see how big this painting is, how big the figures are on the painting. Yeah, look at that. Yeah, so the figures are pretty much life-sized on the painting, which is just nuts. Look at that. And just show the whole painting there compared to the size of one person. Wow. Now, while the painting is displayed on a flat surface here, the original intention was as almost like a cyclorama, where it was curved. Not curved completely in a circle like some cycloramas are, but here they kind of have it on display how it would have been shown in almost like a horseshoe like shape. There. See Jesus there in the center. You can see a painting there of the artist, Jan Stika. It says Jan Stika. He painted it. And in this case here, we have some of Jan Stika's personal items. And this is very interesting. This is the palette he used to paint this enormous painting. But before painting this, he actually had it blessed by the Pope. So this palette here, blessed by the Pope. And you can see this crown of thorns here was actually used in modeling for the painting. So this is the crown of thorns used as the model for the crown of thorns in the painting itself. And coming out the back of the Crucifixion building, look at this view right here. So yeah, this is the esplanade here behind the Crucifixion building, and it's just beautiful out here. You have these white statues overlooking the city here. Let's take a look at the city. So this is right near us. This is Glendale, and I'm still learning my my Los Angeles, California geography. But so right in front of us, that is Glendale, and out that way, that's Pasadena, and then out in that direction, we have Burbank. I think I got that right. You can hear dogs all throughout the city barking at each other. Yeah, as you can see for so far from up here. And yeah, looking back at the Crucifixion building, you can see that whole back wall there is where the painting is. Just another glimpse into how massive that is. The cemetery is very interesting here. The different graves, generally just flat graves on the ground, but the The grounds are very, very beautiful, well maintained here with different structures. We're going to head up here to locate a particular grave. Over here, this way we can actually hear music being played, somber music. It's a very interesting grave here. The almost like a eagle type sculpture. Open up the gate here, and then this here is the Disney family grave. See on the plaque there it says Walter Elias Disney. There's a Lillian Bounds Disney buried in these gardens here. See the statue there. See, a quiet resting place for Mr. Walt Disney. We are in the Garden of David here. I showed the crumbled remains of the David statue. Again, they lost 3 of them to earthquakes because they were carved from marble. But this is a bronze David that can withstand the earthquakes a little bit better. You can see the shadow of David there. Shows different stages in David's life. There he is, King David. Over here we have Michelangelo carving David. And then we have David squaring off against his legendary opponent, the giant Goliath. I don't know, Davy. And over here we have the Mystery of Life statue. This is really interesting. You've got a lot of different people, a lot of different characters here. They're actually all watching these 2 doves kissing each other. For some reason that kid is stomping a toad. That's kind of mean. But all the different people staring at those 2 doves. And there's actually a key here that tells you who all these people are. I was looking over here, there's number 17 there's an atheist here. The atheist, the fool, who grinningly cares not at all. So, let's take a look over here. Yeah, the atheist not staring at the doves. He's just looking off and grinning. And over here is what they call the Great Mausoleum, which is, I don't know, there's no filming inside, so I can't take you in there, but I actually just went in there and peeked around, and it is unbelievable. It is like a literal city in there with there's graves all throughout, people interred, people's cremains interred, but yeah, you just go down to the stores, there's stained glass, there's statues, granite statues. Yeah, really, I don't know, words don't do it justice. It's like a whole city in there for people that are no longer with us. And here outside the mausoleum we have the grave of John Hirscholf, who apparently worked with Hans Christian Andersen as a translator and a writer. And so they actually have a character here from a Hans Christian Andersen story that I'm actually not familiar with. This is Claude's Hans, and see, it's a boy riding a goat with a dead bird in his hand. I don't know if anyone out there is familiar with this particular story, but you can leave a comment in the comment section if you're familiar with the story of Claude's Hans. And then from down here you kind of look up at the Great Mausoleum and get even more appreciation of the size of the mausoleum. That's all the mausoleum all along here. And you can see you enter there and you can go down to all these different stories. These are all part of the mausoleum. So an absolute castle there full of the deceased. And here in the shadows of the Great Mausoleum we have the grave of L. Frank Baum, the writer and creator of The Wizard of Oz. Of course, Wizard of Oz movie, one of my favorite movies of all time. So just amazing, you know, the stories that this man came up with. Of course, the books, there's many books, and the movie was just scratching the surface of some of his creations and his imagination. You can see someone left a little pumpkin there. It's head of Jack Pumpkinhead, one of the creations of L. Frank Baum. See some items left here in remembrance. You do see this a lot. The graves of famous people. People will leave rocks or coins along a grave. Here we have some rocks there. Looks like a little unicorn of some sort, and for some reason someone left a little toy car. Out here near the front of the cemetery, we have this beautiful fountain. You can see 3 storks there in the center, shooting water up into the sky. You see the whirlpool here in the center of the fountain. But look what we have here. It's the Little Mermaid. This is a replica of the famous statue in Denmark of the Little Mermaid from the Hans Christian Andersen story, the original story. Sculpture made by Edward Eriksson. So you can see, actually, if you look closely, she has legs and has knees, but on the bottom there, her feet turn into a tail. So I don't know if that's halfway transition between being a human and being a mermaid. So thank you for joining me here today at Forest Lawn Cemetery. We saw the wonderful museum up there, the Forest Lawn Museum. They do change out their exhibits about every 5 months. So the Baker Marionette exhibit is actually going to be going away rather shortly. It's not going to be up for much longer. But actually, it's a free museum. You can come up here. The cemetery is beautiful. You can tour the Great Mausoleum. Like I said, you're not allowed to film in there, but you can go in and visit for free, and it is something you've never seen before, because it's something I have never seen before with my own eyes. But thank you so much for watching these videos. Again, if you like these videos, please subscribe. It'll let you know when new videos are coming out. Although I've been putting out a video pretty much every day now. Also, if you'd like to support the channel, consider donating to Patreon. $3 or more will get you a postcard once a month. And the enamel pin shop should be coming back soon, because Jen is away from home. We're unable to send out pins right now, but we'll be reinstating that soon. And until next time, this one's in the bag.